With the expose of the Janet Napoles pork scam of 10 billion pesos, which links several lawmakers, our people are demanding for more accountability and transparency. The challenge for the Congress is to approve the Freedom of Information Bill. Will the Congress act swiftly on this bill, which failed to pass since the late 90s? And joining us tonight here on NewsLife is Mr. Vince Lazatin, the Executive Director of Transparency and Accountability Network. Good evening, sir, and welcome to NewsLife.
Good evening, Kathy.
Sir, let's begin. What do you think are the impacts, if any, of the recent events to your advocacy?
I think the recent PTV scam has highlighted the need for greater transparency and accountability in the government budget. And I think this really centers now on the need for freedom of information legislation.
Sir, what do you think are the lessons that our legislators should learn from the Janet Napoles pork scam, given the fact that every member of the Congress is being pressured to pass the FOI bill?
Well, I think the members of Congress should listen very closely to the people and the kind of anger and outrage that the PTV scam has really engendered. And I think if they want to avoid this kind of anger, I think the legislators should clean up their own house and also really support the people's desire for this freedom of information legislation.
Sir, how important is the bill as a platform for our people to determine how the national budget is being spent, especially that the PTV is retained in the 2014 General Appropriations Bill?
Precisely. The Freedom of Information Bill would allow the people to look very closely at the budget, to scrutinize every aspect of it, not only the PTV usage or whatever becomes of the PTV, but all other aspects of the budget and the way government operates. And it is essential for the Daang Matuwid program of the President. I cannot imagine a Daang Matuwid without the Freedom of Information Bill.
Sir, it has been tried to be pushed for several years now, for several decades actually. What do you think has been hampering it for the longest time?
Well, the first several attempts in starting in the 11th and 12th and even 13th Congress, I think there was low public awareness of the need for this bill. And I think the success of the campaign in the 14th and 15th Congresses has been that we've been able to raise public awareness about the need for this Freedom of Information Bill, such that now if you talk to anyone on the street, they're familiar with the bill. They know that it's a bill that a lot of people are pushing for. And so hopefully in the 16th Congress, with the heightened awareness, with the scams such as the PTV scam and etc., will really help in the advocacy in terms of putting public pressure on our legislators to pass this bill.
Sir, can you give our people a brief idea on how the FOI will work for our lawmakers for their own interests and not for the public officials that they elect to the office? I mean, well, for the people's interests and not for the public officials.
The right to information is the right held by the people, and it is the right that the people can exercise to look into the operations of government, to see how it spends money, to look at contracts that the government enters into, and the kinds of decisions that the government makes that impacts on our lives. And because of that, because it is a people's right to look at government information, it is certainly a piece of legislation that would help the citizens learn more about what's happening, to be better informed, and to be able to participate in a more meaningful fashion.
Sir, how confident are you that the President will exercise his influence with the Congress to pass this bill?
Well, unfortunately, Kathy, at this point, we haven't seen any signals from the President that he really wants to support this bill. We know that in the campaign period prior to his election in 2010, he did make a few statements saying that he recognized the need that the freedom of information had to be legislated. And the sad truth is that after he was elected, he has not made any sort of very strong statement in this area. He has issued statements of caution, he's issued statements of concern about the bill, and this is not what we were expecting from the President. And so going forward, while we hope that he will eventually support it, right now, from what we're reading from his statements, we're not expecting it.
Sir, so what concrete actions are you doing to push him towards your direction for this advocacy?
Well, the focus right now in the 16th Congress will really be on the legislators themselves. In the 15th Congress, we did expend a lot of energy trying to get the President to make some statement or to push this piece of legislation. And after 3 years of trying, we realized that perhaps we should just focus on the legislature itself, since they are the ones tasked with the legislation. Of course, we also recognize the fact that it would help if the president put his weight behind this bill. But as I said earlier, we're not really expecting it, and therefore we are working on the assumption that it is just the legislature that we have to work with.
So a major roadblock is the push by certain legislators to include the right to reply provision. Will you agree to this?
The right to know advocates, or the right to information advocates rather, have drawn a line in the sand, and we have said that anyone who pushes for inclusion of any type of right of reply provisions in the Freedom of Information Bill is basically against freedom of information. It's very clear to us that any attempts to insert right of reply into freedom of information is really an attempt to sabotage the bill, and we have made that very clear.
Sir, in a few years' time or in a few months, if the bill is passed, what is your wish for the Filipino people?
Getting legislation passed, if you think about it, is really only half the battle. The other half of the battle is getting people to use it, to use the information that is at their disposal, to make sure that they get the services that they deserve, to make sure that they are watching government both at the national level and most especially at the local level. So I think once we get to that stage when the bill is passed as legislation, then the work shifts now to working with citizens and citizens' organizations to help them use the law so that they can be more effective in what they do, be more effective advocates, and really push for a more transparent government.
All right, thank you very much, sir. That's Mr. Vince Lazatin, Executive Director of the Transparency and Accountability Network.